And welcome to the post game show. Okay, we're a few hours past post game. We wanted to make sure that you had a chance to listen to Dan Quinn and see some post game reactions and that sort of thing. But here we are. We're live and we are covering the latest win for the Commanders. They sweep the Giants 27-22. Let's get into this, and we're starting it right now. And welcome back to the podcast. My name is Greg Sykes, along with Brandon Scott, my co host. And we're talking about today's latest win for the Washington Commanders. They beat the Giants. They sweep the Giants 27-22 to go 7-2 upon the year. Brandon, they have reached my predicted win total already, so they don't have to win any more games the rest of the year. That I'm proven right. No, I want them to keep winning, obviously, but yeah, the Washington Commanders are now 7-2, which is so surprising. But they have earned this. You're going to hear from other fans of other teams. They're going to be like, they haven't played anybody. They played the last place record, and I'm like, you know what? You play the schedule that's given to you.
Oh yeah.
And guess what? They played the schedule, and they have played it pretty well. So only 2 of those games they have lost. Rest of the games, of course, they have won. A lot of those games they won pretty decisively. This game today, the Giants always play the Commanders, Redskins, football team, whatever they are at the time. They always play them really tough and really close. When you get into these NFC East games, it doesn't matter just throw the records right out of the picture because it doesn't mean anything. It's NFC East football. And today really showed you what NFC East football is all about. Smash mouth football. The Giants ran the ball a lot, which gave them a lot of success. Opened up the passing game for them later on in the game and gave them an opportunity to get back into the game and to have an opportunity to maybe tie the game up. But alas, the Commanders were able to hold them off, were able to at ease go down the field, Brandon. That's something, Brandon. Let's talk about this. When we're watching this offense, they can move the ball quickly.
Oh yeah.
Have you noticed that they can move the ball quickly? It doesn't matter if you're running or passing. Jaden Daniels is making the passing game look easy. Some of these passes just look like he's out there just a pitch and catch. He's making it look easy. And he did have a couple of plays there where I'm like, okay, if you're going to throw the ball away, you need to get rid of it a little bit faster. You can get yourself hurt. That one play where he's scrambling or he's running, and then it's like he can't decide if he wants to slide or wants to keep going. And I'm like, what was that? But yeah, overall, we didn't have Brian Robinson, which was kind of a game time decision. He was bothered by, I believe, a hamstring. I believe it was hamstring injury. I know he's had a knee injury as well. So, Brian Robinson, they kept him out, which is probably good because we need to have him for the Steelers game, the Eagles game coming up next couple of weeks. So we want him healthy for those games. But Chris Rodriguez, Austin Eckler, and Jeremy McNichols all came in and played pretty well. Chris Rodriguez actually was the one who led in rushing with 52 yards. I've always been a fan of Chris Rodriguez, and when he gets an opportunity to come in and play, he gives it his all, and he did today. Austin Eckler, pretty good day for him as well. Both of them had 11 carries. And Chris Rodriguez had 52 yards. Eckler had 42 yards and a touchdown. Jerry McNichols, he had 8 carries for 20 yards. So, kind of evenly distributed. Jaden Daniels had 8 carries for 35 yards. So, combined, the team had rushing of 149 yards. Not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
No, not too bad at all for rushing. In passing, this was really funny. Now, Daniel Jones ended um, the game with a decent stats, but he started off. He was like -3 passing or
Yeah,
something like that. I mean, it was weird. Daniel Jones has had a really slow start to the game, but he poured it on. Had 2 touchdowns today. Um, was that in addition to the one that he ran for? I can't remember, but anyway,
no, I think it's 3 touchdowns if you 2 thrown and then 1
two.
rushing.
Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah,
so total, he had 3 touchdowns to his name today. 119.7, no, 72.9 QBR rating. So I mean, not too bad. But Jaden Daniels, 96 point 0 QB rating. He also had 2 touchdowns that he threw for 15 of 22 for 209 yards. Daniel Jones, 20 of 26 for 174 yards. So, don't know if Jaden Daniels will win the Pepsi Rookie of the Week, but us Commanders fans seem to have a easy time being able to vote for him like 100 times a piece. So who knows? He may
yeah.
still get it. But Brandon, your thoughts on today's game? Obviously, it was probably a lot closer than it should have been, but
Yeah.
um, Giants play is tough. And what did you see that were positives out of this game, and what did you see that might be negatives?
A lot more positives than negatives. This is NFC East football. You know that for this team to be considered legitimate in the NFC, we've got to beat our division foes. And look, we swept the Giants. I know this. I know the Giants are hot garbage, but I mean, to me, Dallas doesn't look very good. We still have to beat Dallas and the Eagles. I think really, if you look at the standings, the Eagles are the main competition in the NFC East because they're starting to kind of warm up too. So looking at this game, good win. You always want to win in New York or New Jersey, I guess technically. But Jane Daniels today, 15 for 22, so he was efficient. 209 yards, average around 9.5 yards per throw or per completion for 2 touchdowns. So again, he definitely gets one game ball. He continues to show why. Look, obviously he's going to be rookie of the year. I think that's not even close. But if you look at MVP, he definitely should be in consideration. And because let's break down the award, most valuable player. Without Jaden Daniels, we're not 7-2, and that's just what it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
He
No
has
way.
transformed his team. I mean, the offense is just he's the leader. He's that franchise QB we've been looking for so many years. But he impresses on the field and off the field. He's a guy who he's very humble, but he's a guy who knows where he's at in his development. He knows what he needs to do. He's a guy that comes in the building early in the morning, last guy out of the building type of guy. So he's been very impressive. Other factors look at the running back room shows why depth is a good thing. Even with B Rob out, you saw Chris Rodriguez 52 yards. So he averaged around almost, if he rounded up, 5 yards per carry. So, he was definitely playing good football. Eckler continues to show that he still has gas left in the tank. Same thing, 11 carries, 42 yards. And McNichols is a nice change of pace guy who, when called upon, produces. So, again, this running back room has shown that depth is a good thing, that we have such depth at the running back position that, if a guy decides, he's not playing, he's resting, or he gets hurt, we have guys who can kind of the next man up mentality, right? Come in and play high-level football. Wide receiver, it's easy to say McLaurin, 2 catches, 19 yards, but then both catches were touchdowns. So not too shabby, even though we both kind of agreed before we got on here. We want to see him make that 1,000 yards receiving, if not more. So he
Yes.
definitely, definitely want to see more yards, but he wasn't the most impressive receiver today, in my opinion, even though he got 2 touchdowns. Noah Brown, he stepped up, 5 receptions, 60 yards. His longest was 31 yards and 6 targets. So again, he's playing really good football. The biggest thing with this receiving core is not so much Terry. We know he's that number 1 option. Who's going to step up in number 2? And, it's been a kind of flip-flop between Noah Brown and De'Ami Brown, but Noah Brown is kind of solidifying himself as the number 2 guy. Now, I think long-term, obviously, we need to go out there and find a legitimate number 2. but Noah Brown has done well when called upon. So the defense, I would say that there were some good moments about the defense and some bad moments. If you look at players like Jeremy Chin, 7 tackles a day, so including 2 for a loss. So he has stepped up. He's one of those good additions from the Carolina Panthers. Him and Frankie Louvu, who have definitely stepped up this season for the defense. St. Jude's did well, 6 tackles, but to me, the star of the show is Dante Fowler. I mean, he had 2 sacks and 3 tackles, so he continues to play really, really good at linebacker, man. And
Yeah.
Looking at the D line, I think we expect more from the D line, and we know the secondary's got holes in it, but this linebacker core has been really, really surprising. Not only Bobby Wagner, but Luvu has been lights out, and if you throw in Fowler, man, this is definitely the heart of the defense. So this was a good game. It got closer, but you know what? I wasn't too surprised because the Giants games are always like that. We always play tough against the Giants, and vice versa. It's always a really good game between us and the Giants. But to me, the biggest thing is keep the foot on the accelerator. Don't slow down. We're 7-2, but we still have a long schedule to go through. And while I think this is definitely a playoff team, look, we still have to make it through Dallas and Philadelphia because that's when we really know that we're that contending team in the NFC. We've got to really roll through our divisional opponents because right now, to me in the NFC, outside of the division opponents, all roads go through Detroit, man. Detroit's they're the real deal. So I think that if we hope to challenge them in the NFC, because we don't know how magical this season could be. Like I said, a lot of us are echoing RG3 in that magical rookie year, but I don't want to compare quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is a totally different quarterback, even though there is similarities between their games. But this team is a good team. And yeah, we know the secondary has holes, and in long term, we need to fill those holes. Right now, they're in the search for a cornerback. Adam Peters has been very, very vigilant in calling around the league, looking at cornerback position. So I think that the deadline, we will see a number 1 corner being traded for, or a guy who can definitely make the secondary better. But this is a good team. This team has proven that they're ready to roll. Now, yeah, people always use the argument. There's always somebody's got to complain, right? Oh, the strength of schedule. You play, like you said, you play the schedule you were given. And to me, the only thing that keeps us from being legitimate, we're a playoff team. Don't get it twisted. But we have to get through the division. You can't sleep on Philadelphia. Let's call it is. And same thing with Dallas. There's always those magical moments in division games. When we expect Dallas to be bad, they always find that one game where they surprise people. You know what I mean? The same thing with Philadelphia. They're starting to get hit hot a little bit. So all roads go through Philly. But once we get through our in-division foes, we definitely need to see how good we can be. Now, I do fear Detroit, but this is a breath of fresh air, man. We are 7-2. I mean, last year it was a totally different feeling this season. You know what I mean? Like, there's electricity in the air that we didn't have last season, Greg. Like, I can't believe right now we're talking our team is 7-2. So I'm very happy. Like I said, we kept it close, but a win is a win, and let's keep this thing rolling. Oh, I think you're on mute.
How's that?
You're good.
See, my hands get to I got to touch this mic for some reason. So yeah, a lot of fans on social media are talking about make your prediction for the next 4 games until our bye week, and a lot of people are saying 4-0 or 3-1, and honestly, I think at worst we could probably go 2-2, and we're 9-4. So for 9-4 by the time that we hit our bye week, that's pretty good. I mean, that's really good because you're looking at what 4 games left to go in the season, and let's say you split those games.
Yeah.
You're 11-6. It's the first time that this team would have won more than 10 games since 1991. And I would assume at that point, 11 wins should get you into the playoffs. But
Oh, yeah.
obviously at this point now, with us being 7-2, have been leading the division week after week, half a game ahead of the Eagles. If we're able to, at least split our series with the Eagles, maybe we sweep the Cowboys. I think we can. I think we can sweep the Cowboys. That makes us what is it? 5-1, 5-1 in the NFC East. And I really think this team can get to 12 wins now. So I'm moving the goalpost, folks. I said before the season, I was like, 7 wins, I'll be happy with 7 wins, because that'll show us that'll show some improvement. We're going to have some games where it's going to be fun to watch, but we'll probably wind up dropping it at the end. And lo and behold, yes, it's very fun to watch, but we're winning these games.
Yeah.
And some of these games we're winning decisively. Other games, it's at the end of the game, but we're winning the games. And so let's see how they go against the Eagles. Eagles going to be tough, but before that, we got the Steelers. The Steelers are always a tough game, and so let's see how the Steelers are when we play them next week. Now, this will be a home game for us, so we got that advantage. Who would have thought we could say well, this will be a home game for us, so that's our advantage because
I know, right?
home games have not been an advantage. But believe you and me, Steelers fans travel, so you're going to see a lot of black and yellow there in the stands probably on Sunday as well. But I mean, I think the Steelers game is going to be tough. If Washington can beat the Steelers, then I think you see a lot more confidence, and you're seeing a team that's like, okay, we can beat the Steelers, we can beat the Eagles,
Yeah.
and it just keeps going from there. I think right now we're looking at the Cowboys starting to implode. They're getting injuries. CD Lamb has an injured shoulder, injured groin for Dak Prescott, and so usually on top of Dallas just not playing well when their guys aren't injured, which I know they've had a lot of injuries. They are starting to implode, and it's starting to catch up with them. And so I really think, Dallas is probably going to be, one of those teams that we should be able to sweep. And then the Eagles, that's going to be the kicker right there.
Yeah.
The Eagles are really the one team I think is going to be in our way of getting a good playoff spot. I really think this team can get into the playoffs this year. But yeah, overall, I just I'm just ecstatic because if we talk about Jaden Daniels, we're talking about a quarterback. He's a rookie quarterback, but yet he's playing as if he's been in the league for 8 years. Have you noticed that? I mean,
Absolutely.
he is so calm and collected, and he makes the right decisions.
Yeah.
He hasn't really made any rookie, and he'll probably make a rookie mistake here and there at some point. But he is really doing well, and just I just can't get over it, And he seems to have all the tools. He can run when he needs to. He's great passing in the pocket. He's great passing on the run. He seems to be able to have vision on the field. I mean, he seems to have all the tools. And then, when you have all of your other weapons who are available and healthy, I know we didn't have Brian Robinson today, but when we do, that just seems to add on. So really right now, the biggest question mark will be that defense. Fedorian Mathis went down today. I don't know. I haven't watched the presser, so I don't know if there's any news on Mathis as of yet. But we need him.
Yeah.
We need him healthy because he is. I think he stepped up his performance. Of course, Johnny Newton, I think, has been pretty good as well. So, and of course, we know Deron Payne has got to step up, and he stepped up last week. I thought he played pretty well today. He had one solo tackle. He had 3 total tackles. But that defensive front definitely needs to continue to improve, get some pressure. I mean, they were getting some pressure. They do get pressure, especially when you have guys like Dorrance Armstrong in there and Dante Fowler. You get guys in there, they're getting the pressure for sure. Charles White says Washington Commanders are legit winners, running over NFC East. Stop all cowards, talk trash. Can't tell Washington Commanders fans nothing. Kanye West song. I don't listen to a lot of Kanye West. I'm sorry. I'm a classic rock fan, but I think that honestly, it's nice to have that confidence. I do have a lot of
Yeah.
confidence in this team. Like right now, when
Oh
I'm
yeah.
watching them play, I'm like, there's no reason why they can't win this game. Every game now,
Yeah.
I'm like they can beat this team. Now, whether it happens or not, who knows? But I've got a lot of confidence in this team. Would I be surprised if they do drop a game to the Steelers or to the Eagles, or dare I say even to both? That could happen, but they're not going to lose the next 4 games. I could already tell you that now. And
Oh
if they,
yeah.
yeah, and if they do drop these games, it's not going to be them getting totally manhandled. That's not going to happen. You know, I, even though the Eagles are kind of they're getting hot around the time that you need to get hot as a team. They're not going to manhandle. It's not going to be like it was, what a year, even a year, a couple of years ago, when obviously our defense just could not match up to them whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
It's not that anymore. Your boss man, I don't know. Is he my boss man? I don't know. But he says go Commanders 8-2 next week. I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I'd love to see 8-2 because if we do have to wind up dropping the game, I'd rather drop to the Steelers than the Eagles because it matters more to us to beat the Eagles than the Steelers. Um, but I would like to see 8-2. I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen that in a long time. Um, Work Rambo says, "Do you think we are the most improved team of the year?" I would say by a landslide.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I,
Not even close.
Nobody expected this team to play like this, and
We literally went from worst to first. Or
literally,
first, worst to first. Yeah. We look good, man. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna call it right now. I think this is a 13-4 team because if you look at the schedule, I think if you look at the last game of the schedule at home against or at Dallas, I think that's the only reason I think that's a losable game is because we're probably not going to be playing all our starters. By that point, I think it's going to be a backup game because it's the last game of the year. It's the way it usually is with the Dallas Cowboys last game of the year. But I mean, I want to say that Philadelphia, the primetime game would be hard, but Jane Daniels went in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football and played good football against a really good Cincinnati Bengals team. So that whole narrative behind primetime games, I think is over with this team.
oh yeah,
But I think we might split with Philly. Like I said, but looking at the schedule, New Orleans is they started out 2-0, now they're 2-6, or now 2-7. They lost to
oh yeah, they're 2-7. They lost to Charlotte, Carolina.
I know, right? I mean, the Titans. Come on, that's easy. I mean, the Steelers. If Russ plays, I think he can give us a fit, but I think it's a winnable game. I'll be at that game, man. And my dad's a Steelers fan, so it would be my utmost pleasure to talk junk to him the whole ride home, man. So, but I think that there's not really a team on the schedule that I see that is a loss. I mean, the Falcons, they have a really scary offense, but Kirk Cousins has been up and down. You don't know what Kirk you're gonna get, any given game. So, this is a playoff team. And like I said, Detroit to me is the best team in the NFC. I'm not going to lie, but we are definitely second best, in my opinion. I think that we can definitely, I don't want to say NFC Championship. I don't want to, you know what I mean? But I'm with you. I have a lot of confidence in this team because, we have all the right pieces in the right places, man. We got new ownership, new general manager who has done an immaculate job building this team, and it's going to get better. We're going to become a really sustainable, contending team, in my opinion. The coach staff has done great. The defense has not lived up, but here's the thing. We knew what it was going into the season, Greg. Like, we knew that corner was and secondary overall was going to be an issue. And, and this still, this franchise is still in the gray area because they still got moves to make. The secondary has to be addressed. I think the old line you got to give a lot of credit to because they've given him a lot of time to get the ball off. They give him, the opportunities to, to use his legs. So I'm very impressed with this team. I know that Marcel Jackson says, because I'm gonna kind of respond to it, Greg. Says, to be honest, this team really don't need to trade for a wide receiver. Noah Brown is doing a good job in the wide receiver 2 spot. I agree. I think Noah Brown has really stepped up, been a really good wide receiver number 2. And like I said, in the first couple of weeks, it was between him and De'Ami Brown, but Noah Brown has played well. If I'm willing to bet, they're gonna trade for a corner. I think right now, the reports are saying that general manager Adam Peters is out there looking diligently for a cornerback. Newsome from the Cleveland Browns, I think is one guy to look at. And so, yeah, man, I love where we're at. this team 7-2, they are definitely a playoff team. But then real quick, Jaden Daniels, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. He plays like a veteran. I mean, he's got a coolness about him under pressure that you can't teach, man. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact he played a long time in college, so he's more flourished than a lot of your rookie quarterbacks. Your Drake May, your Caleb Williams, because I believe it's 1 or 2 years in Arizona State and then 3 years in LSU. So he's a guy who's had 4 or 5 years as being a starter at a big program. So he comes in with a veteran mindset. If you look at his work ethic, when the reports came out that he shows up like 4 o'clock in the morning, if not earlier, already hitting film sessions, already hitting the weight room. I mean, that's what you want to see. Especially when I know we're both older guys, man. Where we complain about this generation all the time. When you see a young man who has that type of work ethic, especially in this modern day NFL, where it's not the same as it used to be, it's good to see that that's your guy. We have a grown man at quarterback, and and it's very refreshing because you like to see a guy who wants to work his tail off, who takes the criticism when they're down, but is quick to give his teammates the praise. I love where we're at. We finally have a franchise quarterback, and he's going to be a good quarterback in this league for a couple decades, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, yeah, I guarantee it. I mean, after about 10 years or so, you might slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Jaden Daniels, again, he is a pass first quarterback who happens to be able to be deadly with his legs. So, it's a great combination. K80 Tick says, I am talking crap to Bears fans every week. I think he meant to say they lose, and their quarterback has a 50% completion percentage. Now, I was checking the scores, and the Bears are getting the Bears have lost finally. The Cardinals shellacked them 29-9. And yeah. So was the Bears 4-4 now, I believe. And I'm looking at the scores right now. Of course, the Eagles and Jaguars, that's in the fourth quarter. Eagles winning 28-16. Jaguars. I mean, that's, they talk about us having a soft schedule, and, you have the Eagles playing the Jaguars. But anyway, yeah, so, that game's still going on. But, yeah, I mean, all of the talk with Chicago last week and all that. And, I don't know if that Hail Mary win by the Commanders broke them, but I tell you what, they got pretty plastered today against the Cardinals, and we wiped the Cardinals up. So, that they're going to be good. They're going to be good. Caleb's going to be fine. But obviously he's going to look more like a rookie at times. He hasn't had as many games, I guess, as what Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels had 55 games under his belt before he came to the NFL. So you would expect him to play better. Of course, the Cowboys lost to the Falcons. I'm just looking at some of this stuff. The Saints and Panthers. Now the Panthers, God bless them. They have just been absolutely horrible, and they pick up their second win of the season. Happy for them, but it really shows you too. The Saints. We play the Saints, right?
Yes, we do.
And that was one of the games I was like, oh my dear, Saints that's going to be a tough game. And now I'm looking at them like Saints have I don't know what's happened to them. But that game right there, I think should be a win. So
I would say injuries, man. I mean, honestly, because if you look, they lost Shaheed for the year, and they just lost another receiver. I mean, Chris Olave had a concussion where
I saw that. Yeah.
So they're running out of weapons. I mean, it's pretty much just it's Carr and Kamara. So I think that it has a big, because they started out 2-0 and they were blowing people out, and now they slow down a lot. So, and that's what I'm saying, man. The schedule. This is a really good schedule for this team to be a playoff team. And that's what I'm saying. You hear it here first, 13-4. I'm saying right now they're going to be 13-14. And I'll say this also. This is going to be a hot take about Caleb Williams. I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I'm going to say he's a little overrated. The hype and as much noise as he got going into the draft, a lot more than Jaden Daniels got. And you got 3 legit studs at wide receiver. What's the problem? And you got who at running back? DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
And you have Cole Kmet. I don't know, why he's got a lot of weapons. If you look at Drake, what Drake May has in New England, I mean, he's been playing pretty good ball at quarterback for a really young rebuilding Pats team. And, and if you look at Washington, we could probably put a lot more weapons around Jaden Daniels, and the weapons we have is done immaculate. So the best situation for any rookie this year has been Caleb Williams. So it's surprising to see him kind of struggle because he's got a lot of weapons, man. I mean, your number 3 receiver is Rome Odunze, and you can argue that he's probably number 2 in most teams in the league. So, like I said, I think Caleb's going to be fine. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's going to figure it out. But I'm willing to say he's probably the 3rd best quarterback in this draft. And it's nothing because I think that, look, Drake May's dealing with nothing, and he's playing good football. And I think straight up, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the draft. It's not even close. With his ability to be the pass first guy and still be able to extend his legs and kill people on the run, and the high football IQ, his body of work, he's the best he's the best quarterback in his draft. It's not even close.
Oh, I totally agree, and I'm not trying to be a homer. I've just, now that we've seen Caleb Williams play in person, and I've watched a little bit of him before the Commanders played the Bears. But, I've watched him, watched Drake May, watched a little bit of Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is not too bad.
He's good too. Yeah,
he's playing pretty good now. Today, obviously, they got killed, but yeah. I mean, I think for Caleb Williams, there's going to be a lot more expected out of him because he is the 1st overall, draft pick. The thing that concerns me is what type of leadership skills will he have, and I think players tend to they tend to get behind quarterbacks who have the leadership skills, who carry themselves like veterans, and guys who really they're like Jaden Daniels. I mean, yeah, he's getting a lot of accolades and stuff like that. Pepsi player, rookie of the week and stuff like that. But yet, he's not going on about it's all him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's team, and he's carrying himself like a veteran. And you contrast that with veterans, longtime veterans, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to dump on him. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, not successful with the Jets. Why? Yeah. I don't think that he carries himself as a good leader on that team. I don't think his teammates like him. I think you can see the body language when you see the Jets play.
Yeah.
And I think that he was probably the reason why his coach got fired. And so, and you start to see this, like down the road, some of these players, whether if they're a quarterback or wide receiver or whatever, and Aaron Rodgers is a great player. Don't get me wrong. He should be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. But I just think that as his career kind of progressed into this twilight, I think that he's probably a hard guy to be around. And people probably could have said that about Tom Brady. The thing is, Tom Brady backed it up by winning Super Bowls. And Aaron Rodgers is one that won Super Bowl, like 15 years ago now. So, but with Jaden, now who knows? Maybe Jaden, I can't picture Jaden like this, like 10 years down the road. Is he going to be the quarterback with the fat head who's like, you do everything I tell you to? Obviously, he's going to be a leader. But I really picture him being more of a, people want to play with him.
Yeah.
Because he's a winner and he's got the skills and everybody loves him. Kind of like how Dan Quinn is as a coach now. People want to play for him. People want to come work for him. Yeah. And we didn't see this at the beginning, before the year started, because we were like, not a retread. And now he's probably, he could be one of the best Commanders coaches, Redskins coaches that this team has had in a long time.
Yeah.
In a very long time. So,
honestly, though, let's be real. The bar's not too high.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Yeah, that checks. Yeah, the bar hadn't been too high. But you have guys like Mike Shanahan. You felt like, okay, he should be a future Hall of Famer head coach, but he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Under better ownership, who knows? Maybe he would have been as successful in Washington
Oh yeah.
as he was in Denver. Ron Rivera, I love the guy, but coach, we're just gonna step over that. But yeah, honestly, Dan Quinn right now, you can tell that he had it all thought out, planned out. He knew
Yeah.
exactly what he wanted to do. And it's almost like cramming and studying for an exam for like weeks before it's even time to take the exam. Like
Yeah.
by the time you get there, you know it backwards and forwards and you know exactly what you're going to do. And that's kind of how Dan Quinn is. He's been studying for this second chance ever since he left Atlanta. And that's
Yeah.
basically what he said. And he's putting it into practice right now and it's working. We have over, what was it? What did they say? It's over 30 new players that joined
Yeah.
Commanders this year,
Yeah.
8 brand new starters. And there's a reason. Like him and Adam Peters have turned this team over very quickly. And I remember a lot of us, Brandon, we would covet the success of other teams. And we're
Yeah.
like, well, how is it that this team won 3 games last year and now they're, suddenly they're like the best team in their division. Like, and we were always told this narrative, to really be a championship team, it takes about 3 or 4 years to
Oh
rebuild.
yeah. Yep.
And we believe this over and over and over and over again, while we saw other teams that went from worst to first overnight. And we're like, well, why can't we be that team? Well, that's an outlier. We're always
Yeah.
told that's an outlier. And now we're seeing it with our team, and we're seeing that's not the case. You can be a good team if you got the good starts with the ownership
Oh yeah.
and the coaching, the those in charge of getting you the right players, Adam Peters and company, and then having the good mixture of players out there, and it's working. And so yeah, I really honestly, folks, I'm going to go with Brandon. I'm going to say I can see us 13-4
Yes,
by the end
sir.
of this season. I see us at 13-4. I am a true believer. Now, I hope I haven't, jinxed us, and then suddenly it's 1996 all over again. But, but no, I really do. The next couple of weeks are going to be the true
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
This team somehow is able to beat both the Steelers and the Eagles the next 2 weeks, then at that point, I'm almost talking about I don't see anybody else being able to beat this team.
Yeah.
Maybe Detroit if they see him in the playoffs. Playoffs? We're talking playoffs?
I know.
We're talking people on the stream. We're talking playoffs. What do you think about that? Have we been drinking? Not enough, but still, yes. I mean, it's possible now because we are seeing a team. We're not seeing a team just getting lucky
Yeah.
and stealing games here and there. We're seeing a team that is able to actually beat teams soundly and to outplay teams. And yes, you may see some teams are able to come back and make a game of it. But now since last week, I don't give up on this team until there's no more time on the clock. And then even then, I don't give up on it until the football actually hits the ground. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's outstanding. Things that concern me, of course, would be injuries. It seems like we keep getting injuries on the defense, especially that defensive front, and that's really going to be kind of bad for us, I think, down the line. Of course, we've lost, John Allen for the rest of the season. Who knows if he even plays another down for the Commanders after this year? We don't know. And like I said, I saw Fedorian Mathis go down today, so that's a concern. So we've got to be able to stop the bleeding, no pun intended, for these injuries on the defense. And of course, offense has remained, knock on wood, relatively healthy. With, of course, the ribs for Jaden Daniels and then Brian Robinson having a couple of various Injuries have kept him out of a couple of games this year, but for the most part, the offense has stayed pretty healthy, and I think that's another reason why that they have um, been so successful and continued to grow. One thing I will say about this game, and I'm probably jumping back and forth too much, but at least we scored touchdowns today. It wasn't
Yeah.
just wasn't just field goals and stuff like that. We scored touchdowns, and honestly, when we scored that last minute touchdown in the first half, and then we got the ball again, I was like, oh man, it's like, please let us score again after the half, because if we go up even by like, what was it, 20, even if we went up
Yeah.
24-7 at that point, I think that's too much for the Giants to come back on. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work that way, but in retrospect, we only scored 3 or 6 points in the second half, so we got to improve on that. But um, yeah, concerns with me still are injuries. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
injuries will play a part. Obviously, you can see that with other teams. Injuries has played a part in teams being good teams and then not being so good teams. But my prediction at the end of the season, I'm not going to predict anything with playoffs, but just at the end of the season, I think um, you're going to see a new coach in Dallas, and
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not quite sure about the Eagles now, because
No.
Sirianni's got them playing better football. I still don't like Sirianni, and I'll give you a hint: a lot of Eagles fans don't either. But um, who knows? But I do think that Dallas is not going to have their coach at the end of the season. The Giants are going to fire Dable. I never can pronounce his last name. That's fine, because he's probably going to be out of here.
Ball.
So Dayball. So he's probably going to be out. And depending on what happens with the Eagles by the end of the year,
Yeah.
um, we could be the only team in the NFC East that keeps their coach and have a bunch of brand new coaches by next year. So Rambo says we need to give the cow pies a recite for last year. He says sorry about the typo. I'm trying to think. What is he trying to say? I don't even remember last year. Honestly, I tried to put it out of my head. But
I believe we lost. We had the last game of the year last year. We lost to the Cowboys.
yeah, I remember that. We kind of lost by a lot,
Yeah.
and the only bright spot out of that was getting Terry McLaurin over the 1,000
Yeah.
receiving yard mark. So guarantee you, Rambo, unless it's one of those things where we're resting all of our starters, which
Yeah.
could be a possibility, I don't think that it's going to be the same type of game, but who knows? I have a feeling, though, with these big NFC East division games being played at the tail end of the year, even though that you have your playoff spot kind of wrapped up, I think you still want to beat those teams. I think you still have to. He said receipt. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. We definitely need to get them back from last year. And I think, honestly, I think we have a good chance of sweeping them. I really do.
yeah.
At worst, I think we will split with the Eagles. We've already swept the Giants, so definitely at worst, I think you might see 4-2, maybe in the division.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at 5-1 right now. But I will say this: the offense can't start to slip, because when you start playing these good teams and knowing that our defense still has some holes to fill, it really comes on your offense, and they really need to make sure that they can go toe to toe with scoring of these
Yeah.
other teams, because our secondary is going to give up plays. They've been doing it all year long, and you're going to get some drives where it's kind of these long, drawn out drives that wear your defense down. So the offense has to stay ahead of the game. And I think that's what's helped us this year is the offense really.
Yeah.
It's masked a lot of deficiencies that our defense has. But hopefully, and we'll know something this week, I guess. We will see if we're able to secure a trade with somebody to get either an edge or a cornerback. Honestly, right now, I want cornerback.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need some upgrades in cornerback. Um, Benjamin St. Juice, I think he's played better, but he's still, to me, he's still liability. He gives so much cushion. I mean, I know he was against Neighbors today, but he gave so much cushion at times that
yeah.
he's just not, he's like half a second late in getting back to the ball. So I feel like sometimes he gives way too much cushion because he's afraid to get burnt. And I think sometimes you got to put him up on the receiver and have safety help overhead and just give him a chance to do that. And the problem is then he tends to draw pass interference calls. So, um,
Yeah.
so something was said today that they felt that he could be one that could be cut or traded. I don't know. Maybe, but
Emmanuel Forbes.
maybe Forbes. Speaking of Forbes, did he play today? Did we see him?
If he did, I didn't even see him.
I didn't see him. I saw Sandstrel. I saw number 1 out there.
Yeah.
I didn't see Emmanuel Forbes. So it's interesting. I do know that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt have been rotating players on the defense. So they're trying to get the best combination. And so, but the thing is, if you're a first round draft pick and you're not playing, you're a healthy scratch. I mean, look at what happened with Jamin Davis.
Oh yeah.
So be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting week to see what happens. When's the Brandon? When's the trade deadline? Is it Tuesday?
Let me double check for you because I know it is coming up. So let me double check for you real quick. Let me see. Here you go. Good Lord. Let's see. For some reason, I can't find a date. Let's see. Sorry about that, man. It's 4 p.m. on November 5th. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's Tuesday, election day. Oh wow!
Wow.
Get out and vote, people. Uh, but pay attention to the draft deadline. That's more important than the presidential elections, right? I kid. So yeah, so we'll know something by the end of the day on Tuesday if the Commanders make any moves. And maybe Adam Peters stands pat because I know that he really does like his draft picks and he wants draft picks.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he doesn't pick up anybody, but Commanders have been tied to a couple of names, so we'll watch out for that. And we'll see. Might even know something by tomorrow. We don't know. But I would like to see an upgrade on that secondary. We really need it. So Rambo says, I got busy day watching both the election and trades on the 5th. Yeah,
I know, right?
Well, Rambo, I hate to tell you, but, according to places like Georgia and all that, you may not know the election results until until it's 2026. I don't know. They keep apparently it's hard to count nowadays. It's not hard for any other country to count. Okay, this is not. This should go on our other podcast. Which, by the way, folks, just a quick spiel on that. Brandon and I have a political podcast called Debate and Switch, and if you would like to check that out, just look us up on YouTube. But other than that, we're not talking politics here. We're talking football. And yes, I want to see if we make any trades by 4:00 on November the 5th. I'm going to be looking for that. And then I'll just, wake up on the 6th and see if they've decided if we're having a president or not. But anyway, so yeah. All right, folks, we're starting to get almost to the top of the hour. But Brandon, looking forward to the Steelers. what, and we can do a podcast later on, but um, just looking ahead to next week. What do you think that we're going to have to do in order to beat the Steelers?
I think from a defensive standpoint, we're gonna have to put a lot of pressure on whoever's quarterback. I think it's gonna be Russell Wilson. You know, is he still that guy who can roll out? Not so much, but he's still a guy who has high football IQ. You know, he's a guy who's been there at the highest level. So, you know, you can't take him lightly. I think that definitely put pressure on him to make those quick decisions. The secondary is gonna be tested. Like I said, George Pickens, you know, him and St. Juice is gonna be one matchup to look at. Can he kind of hold down Pickens? Because him and Russell Wilson have kind of formed a nice tandem together, man. So from the run game perspective, shutting down, you know, Najee Harris hasn't really been that guy for them, but you know, don't take anybody lightly, man. You know, it's any given Sunday. So I think Pittsburgh is a very winnable game for this team. I think that if we play our football, which is hard-nosed football, you know, like I said, from a defensive standpoint, attack them. You know, definitely put the pressure on the quarterback, make him make those quick reads and quick decisions. And from an offensive standpoint, you know, have a nice balanced offense. That's kind of what I wanted to say earlier is that if you look at our offense, it's a very balanced offense, you know, run and throw ratio. You know, you can't say enough about the running back situation. I mean, these guys, next man up mentality. You got to love it. You know, whoever's been the guy, whether it's Brian Robinson, Eckler, William McNichols, even Rodriguez, they have stepped up and been productive. So continue to play our game. You know, play Commanders football, which is efficiency on the offense and try to be hard-nosed in defense. Definitely looking more production from the defensive line. You know, I know they're dealing with injuries, but definitely the pressure is that it's going to help the secondary out. You know, definitely allow them time to, you know, do their thing. So I think it's a winnable game. If I'm going to predict, I know it's going to be a preview. We're going to do a preview before the game, but I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be like, kind of like a 24-17 type of game, man.
Well, one thing we can say, Dan Quinn and Bobby Wagner, they know the quarterback, right? They
Yeah.
know Russell Wilson. They know his tendencies, and they're going to be studying that. They're going to be like, they're going to tell the rest of the guys, they're like, look, we know him. We know what he tends to do. This is what you do to stop him.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be an advantage there. The fact that Dan Quinn knows him, you know, they've certainly practiced against him all the time when all of them were in Seattle. Bobby Wagner as well. So he's going to be able to give some insights on Russell Wilson. And then who knows, Justin Fields, you can't rule out if things don't go well with Russell Wilson. Justin Fields might get in there. We've seen Justin Fields, so we know what he can do as well. So, and you know, I know it was Ron Rivera's team, but you know, he put a butt whipping on our team last year. But so yeah, I mean, there are some advantages. It's going to be a tough game. You know, Rambo says it's going to be a classic. It could be.
Oh, yeah.
Could very bit. It's going to be a black and blue type of game. It's going to be Smash Mouth, and I'm all for it. I want to see a good Smash Mouth game. Don't want to see anybody get hurt, of course, but I want to see a good game. All right, folks. We're going to wind this down a little bit. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I know I have like a son who needs to go to bed, and so I'm probably going to wind up having to put him to bed. But anyway, so folks, ways that you can support this channel. First of all, subscribe to it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the team or to the channel and join the team. But also when you do, we always talk about hitting the notification bell, but you really have to do more than that. You have to make sure that when you do hit the notification bell, that you make sure that it notifies you for all videos, because it's set as a default of just videos that are relevant to you. And then the algorithm may think that none of our stuff is relevant to you. So it's weird how it does that. I've actually had longtime subscribers who are like, where have you been? You know, did you take a hiatus? I was like, we've been putting videos out each week. And so I'm like, you need to make sure, you know, do you have your notifications turned on? They're like, well, yeah. It's like, well, you got to do this extra step in order to make sure you see all of our videos. So just make sure you do that. That would really help us out a whole lot. Other ways, you know, thumbs up, giving us a thumbs up on this, interacting with these videos helps to get them pushed out. We really need that. I know our numbers kind of falling behind a little bit. I haven't been putting out videos on the daily like I probably was able to several months ago. Brandon, he is always awesome about stepping in and putting out videos when I've been sick or I've just not been able to. But he's got a lot on his plate as well. So, we've been trying to put out some good content for you, and at least when we do put out content, we try to put out quality content, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
so we want to make sure that we get that to you guys, but you do have to make sure that when you subscribe, that you make the notifications to where you're getting all videos notified to you, not just certain ones. Okay. And just quickly, Rambo said he made it, so I appreciate it, brother. Yes, hell to the Commanders. What is LLAP? I'm almost 50. I'm not into all this new fangled language. But anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed it. Brandon, you got what else you want to give us as we part?
Oh, I'm good, man. Good game, another win, and you heard it here first. 13-4.
13-4. So if it's not 13-4 by the end of the year, you just heard it from Brandon. You didn't hear it from me. I thought it was more like 10-7. No. I'm with Brandon. I'm backing him up. 13-4, buddies. It's going to happen. It really is going to happen. All right, folks. We're going to call it a night. Hope you all have a great evening. You're going to sleep really well, knowing that we have another game in the W column. And we will be back later on in the week to talk more Washington Commanders football. Take care, folks. We will see you in the next one.